Greetings everyone, my name is Anna. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today we're going to be talking about my 2020 reading goals. I do think that it's quite important to set yourself goals because it gives you something to work towards, and you can also reflect back at the end of the year just to see if you actually did achieve what you said you would set out to go and do. So I've got like 3 or 4 goals I've written down here. They're not too long because I think if you make the list too long, then it won't really be realistic, and then you could put yourself off trying to achieve them. So I've got a few here and I'm just going to tell you what I would like to achieve next year in terms of all of my reading. One big takeaway that I have from this year is to focus a little bit more on quality rather than quantity, and I think for the most part that's what most people try to achieve. But because this year, I don't know what happened, I just got really into reading. I kind of got swept up in a lot of hype, and so I found myself reading a lot of what was new, what was coming out, just to kind of see what was, all the buzz about. But when I was reflecting on and writing down what I wanted to do for my best and worst of 2019, I just didn't really feel like I had a lot of quality reads. In terms of the books that I read, I have to check the final count, but I hit my reading target and I'm way above that at the moment, which is great. But out of all of that, there's literally only a handful of those books that I can say these are genuinely books that I took something away from this year. And I kind of want to turn that around. Like, I want to read more books that I'm not finishing off and being like, Now, obviously, it's a bit difficult going into a book that you've never read before, whether or not it's going to be a good read. But I think not jumping onto bandwagons is a really good place to start, and trying to maybe read more of, like, I don't know, the Goodreads review, read more actual in-depth reviews of the books I want to go into, just so I can kind of gauge and see whether or not I think I'm going to enjoy it, so that way I get to filter out more books. But I definitely want more quality reads this year. Now, even though I just said I want to read quality over quantity, like I've mentioned, I do think it's important to set yourself goals. So my next goal would be to read 45 books in 2020. I don't think that's a difficult goal for me to achieve because this year I set myself the goal of reading 45. I think I want to say I'm at like 56 or 57 at the point of reading this, or what, not reading, at the point of recording this video. I do have a few books I'm currently reading, so I'm hoping to kind of get those done before the end of the year, just because I would like a nice round number. I'm a bit anal like that. But I think that the number 45, there's no real significance there. It's just an easily attainable number for me. I hit my goal a few months ago, and it gave me time to sort of read what I wanted to read because I had that goal out of the way, and it kind of gave me that ability to relax a bit more. So I think 45 reads means that I can have books to review for the channel, but also that I'm not really pressuring myself. My next goal would be to read more diversely. I do try and aim to do this. I don't always achieve that for one reason or another, but I'm going to try and make a conscious effort to do so, because whilst I do really like reading fantasy, I think as a reader, and also perhaps someone who is making content online about books, I think it is also good to vary what you read, because there's so much that can be taken away from the literature that you read, whether it be good or bad. And I think just exposing yourself to one specific genre isn't really beneficial to you. So I would like to read more literary fiction, more contemporary, although contemporary isn't really my favourite, but I have read some that I do really like. So I think it's, again, just a case of doing a bit more research to see if a book does sound like something that I would be interested in reading. But there are so many genres out there that I think I can give a go and really fall in love with if I have the time to, or well, give it the time to research them and pick up the book. So I think what I'm going to try and do is maybe have a couple of books set aside in the month that have to be from a different genre, be it, like I said, literary fiction or contemporary or, non-fiction, whatever it might be, and saying to myself, okay, if I have to read 2 books a month that are outside of genres that I'm used to reading from, then I'm going to put in the effort to research them. And I think another goal that kind of tacks onto that as well is perhaps reading more classics. I always find it really funny when I'm watching people's videos and they say, I don't like classics because I once read Jane Austen and I hated the books, or whatever it might be. Classics are more than Charles Dickens or Jane Austen or the Brontes. There are so many classics within genres that you can't really put them all under one umbrella. It's kind of like categorizing YA under or one umbrella. Like, it's not really beneficial to anybody. So I think reading, again, more classics from certain genres, like I really like fantasy. Not really such a big sci-fi reader, so that is another genre I do want to get into as well, because I prefer watching sci-fi. But I think reading, you know, non-fiction books that have been classed as classics, or even classic fantasy and sci-fi. I've never read Tolkien. You know, I do want to read a Tolkien book, or maybe like all three of the books from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I have The Hobbit up on my shelf, never read it, but I would like to get to it. And I think it is important to see or delve into the books that are classed as foundations of a certain genre, because I think it does give you more of a rounded view of what you are reading. I just want to become more of a discerning reader, more critical reader as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the goals I have. I don't think that they're too much. I don't think they're unattainable. I think on my part it just involves putting in a tiny weeny bit more effort in order to achieve those, but I think they are very attainable, and hopefully you get to see that as a product of the content that goes up on this channel. You might see a bit more variation in terms of the books I talk about, and hopefully it's just a bit more varied content for you guys to watch. Those were all of my goals for 2020. Perfectly attainable, just requires a bit more effort on my part, but I don't think that will be difficult for me to achieve those, but we'll see. I think next year what I'll do is, when I do my 2021 resolutions, I might reflect and see if I achieve these goals that I set myself. So keeping my fingers crossed. If you guys have any reading goals that you set yourself, feel free to leave those down below. We can all be accountable together. If you like that video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really does help my channel, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye.